Well, good afternoon, everybody. We welcome you here. We're going to go ahead and get started on this webinar this afternoon, where we're going to take a deep dive into dairy and talk with leading dairy producers from coast to coast, who will talk about issues and challenges that they've faced in this past year and how they're planning for the year ahead. My name is Karen Bohnert, and I'm the Dairy Editorial Director for Farm Journal, overseeing our two dairy publications, Dairy Herd Management and Milk. I do really want to quickly share that we'll carve out a few minutes for questions and answers. So if you have questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box or the Q&A button, and we will address them throughout the next hour. I don't have to tell you all that 2022 has felt like maybe a new normal, whatever that means, right? Fewer masks, consumers returning back to the restaurants, and kids back in school. But again, what is normal? I'm not sure about that. But what I do know is that at the dairy level, 2022 hasn't felt normal. Yes, of course, we've all enjoyed record milk prices, but the crazy thing is that record price doesn't quite feel high enough. Those inputs from labor to feed and everything in between has risen significantly. I certainly haven't had a lack of topics to write about this year as my role as editor, from rising milk price and input prices, supply chain hiccups, technology, uncertain milk markets, extreme weather patterns, and so much more have been areas that I've not only covered, but certainly monitored. So let me push pause and turn the table to our three excellent dairy producer panelists that we have on today's webinar. First, we have Melvin Medeiros from Medeiros Holsteins in California. Next, we'll have Jordan Matthews with Rosie Lane Holsteins in Wisconsin. And in New York, Tyler Reynolds with Raincrest Farms. So gentlemen, I appreciate your time, and I will let each one of you take a few minutes and tell our viewers more about yourself and your dairy operation. So we're going to work our way west to east. So let's start out with Melvin.
Thanks, Karen. Welcome, everybody, and pleasure to be here today. Our dairy is located in Layton, California, which most of you probably don't know where that's at. It's just that we're 25 miles south of Fresno, right in the middle of the San Joaquin Valley, which is the breadbasket of the world. I'm second generation. We've been in business now for 54 years, and my wife and I and two of our three sons are involved here at the dairy. We milk 1,600 cows. We farm a little over 500 acres of double crop, sometimes triple crop. We also run a small cow-calf operation in state Oregon. And our third son farms in Oregon, runs cow-calves up there, and supplies about 70% of our alfalfa needs for the dairy back here in California. So that's just a little bit about what we do here on the farm. I'm also the chairman for DFA Western Council. I sit on DFA's executive board and National Milk's executive board. So that's a little bit about who I am and what I do.
Thank you, Melvin. Jordan, why don't you give our audience a brief introduction about you and your dairy operation in Wisconsin?
Thanks, Karen. Jordan Matthews, I'm a partner at Rosie Lane Holsteins. We have a little non-traditional ownership structure. We're three non-family partners, currently myself, Tim Strobel, and Lloyd Holterman. Right now, we're milking about 1,750 cows on two operations that are about 50 miles apart. We just started the second location less than a year ago, where we milk about 650 pregnant cows. So at the home farm, we're running about 2,200 acres. We're able to do all of our forages as well as a lot of our grain. We do have a grain set up there. And at our satellite site, everything's purchased feed, so we just milk cows and feed cows there. My role on the dairy is kind of management of the dairy teams, so anyone that works with dairy cattle or young stock, and then Tim is handling day-to-day operations of our cropping team, and then we have two partners that are retiring. Lloyd is still involved in some management, but he's moving towards a retirement role.
Thank you, Jordan. Out in New York, Tyler, would you please talk about your operation and your family there?
So I'm Tyler Reynolds, Raincrest Farms in Corfu, New York. We'd be in Western New York between Buffalo and Rochester. We milk 1,600 cows. We farm 2,800 acres. A lot like Jordan, we provide all our own forage, and then depending on yields, a fair bit of our own grain. The farm's owned by my family, my parents, John and Shelley, kind of CEO and CFO. My sister Mackenzie would be our herd manager. My brother Andy is our young stock manager, and I deal more with employees and kind of fill the gaps in between. That's about it.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, I'm not going to start off easy on you guys, you know that. So Melvin, I'm going to let you, again, we're going to work west to east. I'm going to let you answer the first question, or take the first stab at answering the first question. And then Jordan and Tyler, of course, I'd like each one of you to also answer the same question here. So what was the biggest or the most unexpected obstacle faced by your dairy this past year that you didn't see coming or that took you by total surprise? Melvin?
Feed costs, feed and energy costs. You know, when we started off, you know, as you look forward to the coming year, and you normally start that in December, and you start looking forward. You know, the West has been going through a drought, but December came in pretty strong out west here. You know, we had over 3 inches of rain. We were 160% of normal. So we're trying to dial in, you know, what's feed going to be going forward into 22, and you know, we felt pretty comfortable saying, okay, you know, 15% increase over last year and the previous year, and knowing that we were coming off of some record feed costs the previous year, and we felt pretty good about it. Then the spigot dried up and the drought started from January on, and we just watched feed availability become shorter and shorter. And, you know, we've seen silage from a record price jump up another 48% to the dairy. We've seen hay go up over 50%. We've seen almond hulls go up over 70%. So, you know, that really threw us for a loop. And then you compound energy costs on top of that, you know, nobody anticipated diesel prices getting as high as they did here on the farm. And so that was probably the biggest unexpected obstacle that we've been having to tackle all year. It's been a huge challenge for us out west. Hopefully 23, we see a little bit more moisture and a little bit more availability of feed to curb that situation. But that was our biggest obstacle.
Let me ask you a quick follow-up before we move to Jordan. On your feed cost or energy, did risk management come into play? Did you, going into the new year, did you make some changes on how you lock in prices on inputs?
Yeah, so, you know, we took a look at inputs, and when you get so far out of whack like that, we normally like to lock in a year's supply, right? We took it at 90-day increments, and because those costs were so high, and we just kept hoping that they would soften up somewhere, so we took that approach. But yet the inputs didn't come down at all. So it didn't help us any by doing the 90-day approach. Fortunately, we did lock in some good milk prices early on. That has helped us carry us through the last half of this year. So that's been helpful. But on the input side, it's 90 days, about as far out as we went.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Jordan, do you is your big challenge that took you off surprise similar to Melvin's, or was it something completely different?
I don't know. I think kind of. So we've changed a lot of our business structure as we have partners exiting. So instead of, we used to kind of ride the wave of milk price and feed cost, and with a lower debt structure, that was our strategy. So going into this year, while we do have buyout payments, we've really tried to lock in margins. So feed cost was pretty under control for us as we're getting towards the end of the year, and we had to keep. We lock in usually quarter by quarter, kind of like what Melvin was discussing. The beginning of the year, it was quite easy to lock in our margin that we were shooting for, and coming towards the end, and it got a little tougher. One of the other things that kind of we struggled with, that I don't know that we've noticed before this year, was just like machinery availability. We had some some money set
Mhm.
aside in the budget to get new skid loaders, to get some new paint for the field, and you just can't find anything. And ordering, and then you can't even get a delivered date on things. So you're holding some junk around for a little longer than possible. Repair bills are hiking up, and it's probably not the end of the world, but it does get frustrating when we finally have things in line with our budget to make the purchases in a timely manner, and you can't actually make the dang purchase. So I think a little bit with increased feed costs, and it didn't jump quite maybe like Melvin's did, but it slowly crept on us, and next year's not looking any better.
Yeah, well, certainly I think we can all feel those same headaches that you did with equipment purchases, or even if you're trying to find a new truck, right? Tyler, out in New York, what about you? What was like that big obstacle or just that unknown that took you by surprise?
I would say the same thing as Melvin and Jordan. It was input costs for us,
Hmm.
between feed, fuel, and fertilizer. We're fortunate that we grow a lot of our own all of our own forages, but it also takes a lot of inputs to get those forages off the fields, whether that's harvesting or fertilizer. But we have so many costs, the cost of ownership of land, cost of going across the land, that we still need those yields to be as high as possible. So we really didn't back down any this year, but it just gets a little scary when fertilizer is 4 times the cost of normal. Feed cost is almost double what we're used to. That was the biggest thing for us.
So on fertilizer, with that crazy cost, crazy high cost, did you make any changes going into 2023, locking in fertilizer prices?
We have not. We actually just sat down with our fertilizer and seed dealer yesterday, and there's still a lot of variables to play. He kind of feels like markets are still coming down, and we're lucky. The guy that we work with, he passes on his savings to us. It's a really good relationship. So I think I'll bring this up late in another question, but like the people that we try to work with through the last couple of years are those people that realize it's not always the easiest, but pass those savings on to us, and those are the people we want to work with.
Sure. Well, I can appreciate those are the people you certainly want to get around the table. Jordan, a follow-up with you. I mean, is risk management something that you guys utilize or plan on utilizing in 2023 to deal with that high feed bill?
Very much so. So we look on a quarterly basis at all feed ingredients, milk price, try to lock in some energy, and if we can see we can hit that margin that we're comfortable operating at, we'll lock everything. It's been kind of a good strategy that's worked. Probably the last 18 months we've been tweaking it, but previous to that, we were wide open. But this seems to be, I think, a strategy that we'll use going forward that we're pretty comfortable with.
Well, very good. Yes. Okay, let's go on to another question here. And Jordan, I'm going to let you start with this. I'll let you start with the first response on this question, then we'll go to Tyler and then Melvin. Talk to me about what kind of relationship you have with your processor, and does your team worry about any uncertainty of being dropped in the future? And do you have a plan in place if that was to happen?
So I mentioned a little bit, we started that satellite dairy, that was in December of 21. So we had to get to know a new processor, which was, I think, really good timing for us. A lot of conversations starting in, probably May, June of last year. And we really got to know them. I think they've been very fair to us. And just as we're getting to know our new facility, it took us a while to ramp up numbers. There was a lot of communication going into that. I think they were really clear on the product they desired. So we always, the saying I say to our team is we have to control the controllables. So let's focus on what we can do. They put outlines on the product they want, on the things they want to see out of our dairy. So as long as we control that, I think we've been able to keep them happy, and in return, they're keeping us happy on our milk price. So at the home farm, we've had a relationship with that dairy for going on 10 years. They've been awesome. I think all through the beginning of COVID, been pretty transparent about the hardships they're dealing with and how they worked with us. And so there's maybe a little less communication because our relationship has been over a longer period of time, but really happy with both of them. And again, we line out what they want, and then we do everything we can, with the team on the farm and working with our girls in the barns to provide them what's desired.
Very good. Yes, I think transparency is definitely a good thing. Tyler, talk to me about out in New York, what your relationship with your processor is like.
Yeah, we're really fortunate with the processor that we're with. So we would ship through upstate Niagara. It's a relatively small co-op, 350 farms, give or take. And the communication is great through them. We do have somewhat of a base program, but fairly lenient, that does allow for growth and allows for the future. I guess when we've got 3 younger partners at our farm, we're still thinking about the future and what does the farm look like 3 to 5 to 10 years from now. And 3 families right now, 4 families withdrawing from the farm. We need to continue to grow and be better. And I believe our co-op understands that. I guess I would 100% agree with Jordan that it's our responsibility to produce high quality milk. It's their responsibility to market that milk. And I think the leadership that we have now there fully understands that's their job, is to market our milk. And we really have no complaints or no worries that we would ever lose them.
Very good. Was any base program that was implemented, was that prior to COVID, during COVID, or after?
That started before COVID. Just
Okay.
kind of hit a point where they felt like they were losing too much money on too much milk that they were just having to get rid of. And just tried to slow that down. I guess one other thing that I forgot to say too is every year at the beginning of the year, they'll send out a survey to try to get an idea of where farms are going to be. And as far as growth, as far as milk production. And I think the biggest thing that we see is the more honest we are with them, the better everybody's going to be in the end. There's really no need to try to hide growth or increase in milk production if that's the goal. Because they need to plan on it too, like we need to plan on what's going to happen on our dairy on a day-to-day basis, on a monthly basis, yearly basis.
Yeah, very good point. Melvin, out in California, you talk to me about your relationship. I think you probably have a good relationship with your processor, but talk about that and the uncertainty or plans for the future.
Well, yeah, I've got a pretty good relationship with my processor. Being the chairman of the board out here, they better pick my milk up. But I wasn't always a DFA member, and I'll just tell you a little story. Going back in my younger days, I think I was 20 years old at the time when I took the dairy over, and I was going to an independent processor, and we just didn't see eye to eye, and I still remember my mother owned the dairy at the time, and I was running it. And I told her, I says, I've had enough of this, and I'm going to a co-op. And opportunity came up to go to a co-op, and I ran down there and I signed up, and I came home, and my mother asked me, what's it going to cost us? And I said, 20 cents a hundredweight. She chewed me out for it. I says, I don't care. That's where we're going. And anyway, we started shipping milk to them in April. Got our last check out of them the 1st of June, and they filed bankruptcy on the 15th of June. And my mother never thanked me for that. But anyway, so I'm a firm believer in co-ops, and for a lot of the reasons Tyler just mentioned. I mean, when you open up the communication lines between the producer and the processing, because at the end of the day, you own that processing. And if you can communicate and make each other so much more efficient, it only benefits the industry as a whole. And so I think that's extremely important going forward in communication between the producer and the processor to make this industry much stronger. And so I feel good about who I ship milk to. I
Mhm.
like the leadership that we have at the organization, and how we keep thinking outside the box to make this industry a better industry for everybody. So, and if I do have a backup plan, it's if I can't ship milk to DFA, then I guess I'll just send the cows to the sales barn.
Okay. Yep. Well, I've covered some stories more in the Northeast than anywhere else, but you just never know when that letter might pop up in the mail. And I don't wish it on anybody, but I think that you guys all hit it on the head that just good communication can solve a lot of problems, right? And that's a two-way relationship, not just with the processor. I think it needs to be with the farm as well. Let's pivot a little bit, and we're going to talk about labor. We all get to deal with labor because obviously the cows have to be milked every single day. And Tyler, I know I visited quite a bit with your wife and you talking about labor in New York, but this question's for you all. I'll let Tyler start. Let's talk about labor and what labor issues have impacted your farm in the past 12 months, and what changes have you implemented because of that?
I would say the biggest change so far, and this happened maybe even before the 12-month period, is New York went from no overtime to overtime over 60 hours for agriculture workers. Before that, agriculture was exempt from overtime. So far, we haven't really changed anything on that because our guys really want 65 to 70 hours a week. That's what keeps them happy. That's what keeps their day full. And I truly believe if I cut hours back, I'm going to lose some of my best guys because they're going to most likely go to other states that allow for as many hours as they can get. At some point, legislation is already in place that we will be down to 40 hours. It's going to start at 55, go to 50 in a slow transition. But at some point in there, we're going to have to make the change to limiting hours, or I'm going to have to go to, like right now, our shifts run 4 to 4. We're going to have to go to 3 different shifts or something like that. I don't know how common it is in Wisconsin or California, but like for us, we house all of our employees. So it's not just as easy as hiring another shift of guys. All of a sudden then I need more housing. And right now I'm comfortably full. Everything kind of hums along. Guys are happy. Everything gets done. We're as efficient as we can be at this point. But when I need to make that next step, it's going to change a lot of things, not only just weekly cost of employees, but bigger picture kind of things. And my biggest fear is that we lose the best people that we can get. I think when we start getting down into the 40 and 50 hours, the guys that are here to work and have the strong work ethic are again going to other states, and we're going to be left with the second and third tier kind of employees, and I'm not looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's I know so many different dairies that I've spoke to from coast to coast that retention is crucial. How much do you know year over year what you think your labor costs have rose because of maybe the overtime or just even inflation?
Right. I mean, right now we would be 25 to 35% higher than we were just year over year. And it's wild that, and I guess to back that up too, New York has continued to push our minimum wage. And I don't like to think of any of these guys as minimum wage employees, but like right now our minimum wage is $13.20, which plus housing, we don't take anything off for housing. So all of a sudden these guys are $15 to $16 employees, plus then time and a half over 60 hours. It makes it pretty challenging. And another thing that I struggle with is my guys that have been here a year or two aren't making enough more than guys that have just started, because I find it hard to justify. I start everybody at minimum wage because that's just kind of the protocol that we have, and the best guys continue to move up. But the difference between my best guys and my new guys isn't as much as it should be from a lack of being able to, I guess.
No, I can totally relate. On our farm, we have employees that have been with us for 16 years. And I mean, they definitely make more than the entry level guy, but you think that the gap in what their wheelhouse, what they're capable of doing should probably be even greater than it is, but it all has to paper out, right? Go on pencil out on a paper. So I can relate. Melvin, I'm sure that you can relate too out in California. You've kind of went through overtime, and talk to me about labor and the challenges that you face and changes maybe that you've implemented.
Well, the same challenges Tyler's going through. We've had overtime now for, I don't even know how many years. We were at 60 hours. Next year, we're going to 50, and the following year, we're going to 40. And those same challenges with our employees, right? When, our minimum wage is $15. We've got employees that are saying, hey, I've got to make more money. And we've got to go to 40-hour weeks. So what are those changes? We take a look at the whole operation, and my attitude's got to change, right? So when we take a look at the operation and some of the stuff that we were really strict upon, and I'll give you an example: feeding colostrum to calves, just the little things like that, where we wanted to make sure every calf suckled the bottle, right? And we want to get a gallon of milk into them. We've got to the point now where it's like, now let's just tube them all. Let's make it quicker. Let's get it done, because we're going to 40-hour weeks, guys. We got to get faster at what we're doing. Just little things on how we're moving cows. When we sit there and we analyze our cow feeder and how he's feeding the cows and which direction he's feeding in, just to cut down on time. I'll give you an example. We feed our dry cows and our heifers once a day. And we were doing it during the morning shift, and we figured out that if we have him do it during the afternoon shift, he's 15 minutes faster because he wants to get home at night. So just those little things we tried to move around. But the labor situation, we've been battling it up for over five years now. Quality of labor, availability of labor. It's tough. It's really tough. And I don't have the magic wand to fix it. I don't know if anybody does, but I know when legislation gets involved, it turns it into a mess. And so we're in that mess now, trying to figure it out. And how do we invest in these farms to make it more efficient, to cut back on labor?
Yeah, no, like I said, I think that's one common thread that any producer can talk about in great lengths, is the labor or lack of and retention. And I don't think it even has to do so much about how much pay they get, because if the right employees will pay right. So let me pause for a quick second, but Jordan, before I bring you into this conversation, gentlemen, and those that are watching here, we have an excellent milk business conference. It's our 20th anniversary coming up December 13th through the 15th in Las Vegas. And we will have another extraordinary panel of producers, the Casey Dugan from Arizona, and oh gosh, I'm going to go Juan Quaza. I'm not pronouncing his last name right, so I apologize, Juan. But from Milk Source is going to be there. And we even have Tosh Farms, a pork farm, that's going to come in and bring their perspective. I think we all have to kind of lean in and kind of listen to what other producers are doing, because it is all about retention, from my point of view, about retention. Because we have, like I said, on our dairy, we have employees that have been with us 10 to 16 years. It's like we gotta keep on that, because it's really hard to replace them. Jordan, in Wisconsin, I don't believe labor laws are to the extent as in New York or California. But what challenges do you face on your farm with labor? Maybe you don't. Maybe you're one of those golden exceptions. But just talk about labor challenges and any new implementations that you've made.
I feel like I should just be quiet, because these two gentlemen aren't going to feel sorry for me. No, I think so. We've had a little bit of turnover, I think more than normal, but about 3 years ago, we kind of changed how we were going to approach labor, and changed from kind of wait until someone shows up looking for a job and to constant recruiting. So we always try to have someone in that pipeline waiting to get that call to work at Rosie Lane. So, I think before we'd have an empty spot, whereas now, we've changed the culture that people actually give us 2 weeks notice, which is really fun. And then we majority of the time have someone training before that person leaves, which has been nice. So again, I think we've made maybe some of not the best hires and had some turnover from those reasons. I think right now it's definitely an employee market, not an employer's market. So we've had some people that are going and chasing the 50 cents down the road, which I don't think those are people we want on our team anyways. If they're not chasing the quality of environment that we can provide, I think we're comfortable with them leaving for that quarter, because I don't think those people are happy no matter where they're at. They're chasing something that it's not something that we're going to provide. So that was a little bit of a challenge. I think a challenge that's we're almost done with, or it seems a lot less, is when the health of people has been compromised with COVID or what have you, being out for 14 days or 16 days or whatever it was in the beginning, now to, I think it's 3 is the latest guidelines I've seen in our county. So, I mean, having the staff, we had a lot of people out in the beginning, 3 and 4 people, and they're out for 2 weeks. Like, oh, that hurts. So we just had an extra guy on staff at that point to kind of fill those gaps. So that's been a little more quiet, and we've been able to get a lot more done with that extra person on staff. So I don't know. That's actually been one of our strong suits. So I don't know. I don't think anyone's going to listen to me if I had something to complain there. Like I said, these 2 guys have it a little worse than we do.
Well, I'm glad that, count yourself lucky, I guess is what we should say. There is a question coming in from one of the viewers. So I'm going to say the question out loud here, and then any of you that want to chime in, please feel free to do so. Are any of you leaning into technology to cut down on labor costs? And if so, what areas are you looking at to implement that technology? So are any of you 3 looking at technology to help on labor? I guess silence. Go ahead, Tyler.
I would say we're always looking at technology and what makes the most sense for our operation. We always felt like we were strong cow people, and that we didn't need any activity monitoring or anything like that. And the more and more you watched it, we installed SCR and kind of didn't realize how much time and savings we could get from it until we actually had it. And that would just be one example, but I think we're always watching what our neighbors are doing, or what somebody else we see is doing, and how it works. We're maybe not the first to jump on technology, but we want to see that it works and see the savings, and then be ready to jump on it afterwards.
Sure. Jordan or Melvin, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, we all look at technology or equipment or anything that's going to create any type of labor savings. We also look at what can we have commercially done or hired done. In our operation, we send our calves off from day 1 to be raised by a calf raiser. Not only do they do a better job than we do, we also look at the labor aspect of it. We're now looking at farming out all of our heifer program. And it's not only because of feed availability, but it also comes down to labor. How much savings are we going to get on the labor end of this? So you look at every avenue. Throughout the country, it's all different accordingly, but especially out west, when it comes to the challenges we have with water and feed availability and labor availability, you got to start thinking outside the box, and so we're always looking.
Yeah, I think everything has to have an ROI, right? We all have to look at everything. Yeah. Jordan, I don't want to cut you short if you have something to add. If not, we'll kind of go on to another question.
All I was going to say is, we're always looking, but something that we did with that expansion, we kind of doubled down on the technology we had. So at the home farm, we have a lot of technology. There's pedometers on the cows. We're looking at getting collars on our fresh animals there. We have milk weights in the parlor. So we had about 1,100 animals at that facility. Now the way we run that is everything freshens at that facility. Everything, is taken care of in the fresh pens, and then we do all our breeding there. So we were able to add, 650 cows, and we only added 7 people by milking those at the offsite. So at the other site, we don't have a lot of technology, but those cows are kind of in the easy stage of lactation. So they're, pregnant, just kind of easy going. They get a vaccine before dry off, and then they dry off at home. So, we were able to run about, almost double the cows through the home system, or, 50% more, with that same technology. So that's kind of the way we looked at it. And it added some big labor savings for us, because if we did everything at both sites, we would need likely an additional four full-time equivalents at the new site.
Okay. Well, I think that was all the, let me look real quick here. Okay, well, let's move on to our next question, and it's talking about supply chains. I think we can all hiccups, headaches, whatever you want to call it. And so, Jordan, I'm going to let you start here. What supply chain hiccups have you seen in the past year on your dairy or dairies? And how has it impacted it? And what changes have you had to make to incorporate, supply chain ordering, if you will?
So I mentioned a little bit the machinery. That's
Yep.
been a pain. We actually carry an extra skid loader on inventory now, which is, an extra, some tools and stuff that's not so big, but an extra $60,000 piece of equipment. That's not so fun always to have laying around. But we've added an executive assistant to our team, so she handles all of our inventory currently in ordering, and kind of what we had to switch to, which is it's been a positive, but any item we purchase, we try to check through 3 to 4 different vendors, no matter what we're ordering. So we had to switch to that for availability, because you'd go to one vendor, they don't have it. You go to the next vendor, they do have it. But it's actually helped us drop our cost. It's forcing us to do some price shopping at the same time, for anything from, gloves, pharmaceuticals. I had to buy a new hip lift the other day, anything. She handles all of our ordering, and that's been it was a negative, but I think we've turned it into a positive. So I can't name everything that has been an issue, but with her dealing with that, it's definitely been worth her time, and as well as the dairies. I'd say we're a step ahead because of that.
Yeah, it's definitely probably a benefit to have somebody that can focus on that. Tyler in New York, what kind of supply chain hiccups have kind of been weighing you guys down a little bit this last year?
I would say more on the farming end, on the equipment end, both, just like Jordan said, if you wanted to go buy a tractor, that's great. There's no tractor available to buy. We do something similar. So we scrape all our barns with a Kubota tractor. Now there's an extra one that sits there on site ready to go, because we don't know what 6 months when we want one, if there will be one there. We bought another skid steer just to have as a backup. I would say it was more on the parts end that got frustrating, and I think it's still frustrating. I think we'll feel it into the coming year still as inventories build up. Simple things that you used to pick up the phone and any dealer would have, well, now we're shipping it in from the Midwest or whatever we have to do to get it. So not only are we paying more shipping, and then we have a 3-day inconvenience factor, versus before it would have been a half a day fix and life would have went back as normal kind of thing. I think that's probably the biggest thing. On the dairy end, I think we're flexible enough on supplies, kind of made everything work. Probably the biggest hiccup there was ear tags. We still have big groups of calves that only have one ear tag because the other ones weren't coming in on time. So that kind of changes protocols, and that's going to get a little frustrating, because you go through how we do it now. We do it for a reason, because that's the most efficient, the easiest way for both calves and people. Just changing things like that I think we're probably going to deal with for the next 2 to 5 years, or when are we ever going to get to a state of normalcy all together on the supply chain?
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, I don't know what that new normal looks like. Right now, this feels like normal, that we just kind of have to deal with some of these frustrations the best that we can. Melvin, are you feeling those same kind of frustrations in California with supply chain issues?
Every one of those, especially the ear tags, that irritates the heck out of me.
Yeah.
Something so simple, but
I'm anal about the same brand, printed tags and all that stuff. And I had to throw all that out the door. We've got every variety of ear tag we're using now, as long as it's the same color. But no, yeah, we've had the same issues. Parts. We've learned that we need to coordinate amongst ourselves, between my boys and myself, that we need to get on the phone sooner and get stuff locked up, get stuff on the road, get stuff moving. Trucking's been tough for us. You know, we're moving hay 540 miles. And I tell you what, it got to the point a while back where I had one feeding of inventory because I just couldn't get trucks down here. And at the end of the day, a lot of this is labor. You know, when you talk to your vendors, when you talk, it's labor. They're facing the same issues we're facing, and getting people behind the wheel or getting people to transport something. I know the rail system affected us out west here for a little bit. And thank God we've got a tremendous relationship with our vendor out here. And he assured me that I wouldn't run out of rolled corn, but we had neighbors that ran out of rolled corn through the rail system. So yeah, there's been some hiccups. We've been fortunate here on the farm. We've gotten through most of them pretty easy, I feel. But we've had to make adjustments, and so it's a new world, and hopefully we're past the worst of it. And I'm hoping 23 is going to be better.
Yeah, we certainly have had to learn how to pivot, as they say. We're getting a few more questions here, and I think sometimes we can talk about the sky is falling. There's always challenges and issues that face us, certainly this last couple of years. But one question is, we've talked a lot about challenges and hardships this past year, and we're going to flip the dime here. What is one thing you are the most optimistic about looking ahead to 2023? Melvin, go ahead and, I mean, do you have any, you know, you have to pull your boots on every day and go out to the barn. What's something that you're looking forward to?
Well, you know, I think when you look at dairy, the industry itself, it's in a good spot. It really is. You know, look back, you know, what we've been through the last couple of years through COVID and how we've weathered that storm pretty well. And where we're at today, where supply of milk is today, from a global standpoint, I think U.S. dairy has positioned themselves fairly well. And then it all comes down to the regions, right? I mean, naturally, the West is going to, it's, you know, I call it the high rent district now. It's a little tougher to produce milk out here because of the cost, but there are great opportunities across the U.S. And I think the industry's positioned themselves extremely well. When you take a look at Europe, when you take a look at Australia and the issues that they're facing, you know, we're facing similar issues, but we're handling it pretty well. And I think going forward, dairy is going to be in a really good spot.
Yeah, no, I do agree. Jordan, what's something that you're looking forward to the year ahead?
A little more local. While I agree with all of Melvin's comments, we've had 3 phenomenal crop years in a row. We have more feed than we know what to do with. We're pushing 20 months of inventory on a lot of things. It's way more than we usually do. You know, our bins are full, our staff is healthy, we're full. I feel like we're ready to have a fun year. You know, this year's been relatively fun, but you know, it seems like towards the end of the year, there's always kind of something falling apart and you know, a new challenge. And I don't quite see that yet this year. And we only got what, 6 weeks left, 8 weeks left in the year. So, you know, I'm pretty excited to start going into winter with full bunks and healthy people, and let's make a run at 2023. You know, milk prices are still hanging in there.
I say wrap that with a bow. If you got a good staff, a healthy staff, and 20 months of inventory, I say put a bow on that. That's good. Tyler, what are you looking forward to the year ahead?
I would say, yeah, we keep talking about all the dooms and glooms of 2020 and 2021. 2022 is better, but I think through all of that, both on our milk marketing, on us being good dairymen, we've gotten so much better at everything. Milk price has been good. I think people are maybe appreciating our product more. So I kind of see it a combination of both what Melvin and Jordan said. 2023 could be a really exciting year. I feel like us as a farm, we've gotten better through all the bad things. We're a little more organized on our inventory control. We know where we stand on things. Maybe we've weeded out some of the suppliers that we're just in it to be in it. We've got better partnerships with the suppliers that we're with now. I think there'd be a lot of good things to come.
Very good. Well, that kind of relays good to another question that has came up in our chat box. And it says that all three of you, it sounds like that you heavily value outside partnership. So what has helped form some of those partnerships? Or have you ever had a partnership that you needed to exit? And how did you address that? So whoever wants to take a stab at that, but how do you help form relationships or partnerships, excuse me? And if there's one that you needed to exit a business partnership, how did you handle that?
Okay, I'll start. The only partners I've had is family. And, they always say those are the toughest partners to have, but I've been blessed. I've got a wife and 3 boys that are just all in what we do and how we do it. And so it's been a blessing. But like anything else, I mean, it all comes down to communication, whether it be with your employees, your family, whatever it is, it all comes down to communication and knowing where everybody's at and what they're thinking. And, I think that's the key to success in any part of our business. So we don't plan on exiting any one of us right now, but that's been the key to our success as far as how we work together as a family.
I would agree. I think communication can solve a lot of problems, right? At least I tell my husband that. Jordan or Tyler, do either of you have anything to add to that?
From my point of view, in our business partnership, I think transparency, we've had to talk a lot about, what our individual goals, what our personal family goals are. We have people of all different ages. I'm the youngest, so I'm just kind of entering my career. We have people exiting their career. So, what makes us happy individually, as well as, what our interests in the business are at that point. At different ages, of course, you have different interests. So just that transparency, I think, has kept us very strong. And then I think in a lot of ways, the outside partnership has made it easier because everything is pretty defined. It's not my mom and dad. It's not my brother and sister. We don't have Thanksgiving dinner together. I don't envy those relationships. I think that could be tricky. So, we're strictly a business. We do have fun together, but, very defined. So I think that's what's kept us strong.
Tyler, one thing that Jordan said, that being his makeup is a little bit different than yours, that he's not sitting around the Thanksgiving table with his business partners. That's probably a little bit different for your case, but do you guys have set business meetings that you guys, communicate and are transparent with what's going on?
Oh, we try to do our best. I think it's probably an area of opportunity that we could do better of having set meetings. But what really ends up happening is once a week we end up having lunch together at my mom and dad's house, and kind of go over the weekly stuff. And it doesn't always happen when we're really busy in the fields or doing other stuff. So it's not a scheduled thing. Again, there's definitely an advantage to Jordan's situation versus us. Sometimes I think it's not for a lack of trying on the communication thing. It's just when you're around each other all the time and you are family and you're trying to balance the difference between a business and family and where does that lie. I think it's good to have fun as a family and do that and not forget about the business by any means, but we don't need to talk about the dairy 24/7. Just trying to find that balance. I also tell people, I think we're lucky in the fact that we're 1,600 cows and we're big enough that we're not doing chores. We're not milking cows together 3 times a day or feeding calves together twice a day or whatever. We're all spread out And I think that's a big benefit for us, that we're not breathing down each other's back. But also sometimes we do need to make a better effort of getting together and kind of having that vision, focus, and goals all together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is another question here that a guest has put on the Q&A. And so I'll let all of you or any of you to answer this. In the supply chain, do you see any challenges with vet accessibility and vet services?
I would say for us, no. We've got a really strong vet clinic. It would have, I don't even know, 6, 7, or 8 vets that own the clinic together, all very vested into it. Different personalities. The vet that we have, we really enjoy working with on a weekly basis. But when he's off and sends somebody else, it's another person that we really like working with. So for us personally, there's no kind of end in sight. I know you talk to other people across the country, maybe that is a thing, but we still use our vet to do all of our preg checking, mainly because we enjoy having that interaction with him, learning what other people are doing, whether that's vaccination protocols, sickness treatments. We find it to be beneficial for us still. That's how we feel.
Melvin or Jordan, do you have anything to add here?
In our operation, we do everything mostly in-house. The only time we ever use a vet is for vaccination. So, we're not challenged by that. Maybe from a pharmaceutical standpoint, that there has been some challenges getting some antibiotics, but in the past, hopefully going forward, we've worked through our way through that. But no, so far we're good.
I
Jordan
think
in the
the
Midwest. Go ahead.
Yeah, our partnership with our vet, I think, might be a little unique in that we try to engineer and invent new stuff with him. So he'll bring new ideas to us and always like, what do you think of this? Can we try this here? And so he gets to try out a lot of things at our farm. So we use him very much as a consultant. We do try to do as much as we can in-house as far as like the labor and services. But yeah, he's the engineer behind a lot of new protocols. And if they work, then obviously he gets to use them at his other farm. One thing, we do random inspections on our farm, and he's the guy that does that. So he'll go walk pens. He'll have an audit of the barn, of the cleanliness, of mobility of cows, and it's a 2-hour audit of our farm that he randomly does. And we asked if he could start something like that. Gives us a grade and gives us areas where we need to improve. And when he was doing preg checks, I don't think necessarily we were getting that out of him. He's very focused. He might make a comment here or there, but this time he can spend solely focused on how do we get better, because he's not arms and cows giving shots and what have you. So that's been fun. He's been trying to get some other farms on board. I don't know how successful it's been, but it's been really beneficial for us. So yeah, because he gets to try some stuff, I don't think he's going anywhere.
Okay, well, obviously we have a lot more questions. That I had prepared, but we only have 5 minutes left. So I'm going to ask each one of you guys this question. You have 3 wishes for the new year, and you can put anything into place on your dairy, whether it's developing a new product or magically resolve a problem. What would the 3 wishes be? Melvin, do you have a top 3?
Water, feed, reliable labor source. So yeah, we need water out west. Without water, I made this statement years ago. I remember talking to someone, and it was actually over the federal milk marketing order coming to California, and how that was going to benefit dairy prices in California. And I said, something, I can navigate my way through low milk prices. I just can't navigate my business without water. So water's number 1 out west for us. Naturally, with water comes a little more availability of feed, try to lower those costs, and just a reliable source of labor. Out west, we've been struggling for the last 5 years. And hopefully in the future, we can come, our labor sources are going to get better. And so those are my 3 wishes for the farm.
Okay, how about for you, Jordan?
I really can only think of 2. One is kind of like Melvin. I'd like, our milk price to keep up with feed costs. That's just getting really tough to control. Might be a little out of our control. We're going to keep using strategies, but they'd be ideal if we could continue that nice, comfortable margin. And then just continued health. The last 2 years, with this pandemic we've been going through, that it hasn't been fun for everyone. So, I think if we can have, the staff that does decide to show up every day, if we can keep them out of risk, and just keep them that they go home to their families every day and then show up, in the morning or night for us, that'd be fantastic, I think, for everyone. So I think just keep that margin going and continued health for everyone would be great as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, thank you very much. Tyler, your 3
Yeah,
wishes, what would you?
so I came up with 2 as well. One was just very similar to Jordan. Stable prices, I guess, is what I used. This year was fantastic on milk price. Do we need to see as high as we did this year every year? No, but also don't need to see feed costs do what they did. This year could have been really, really bad if we didn't see the high milk price, but feed prices the way they were. The other thing was, I guess, really hope that the politicians and lawmakers continue to remember agriculture and realize some of these policies that are put into place, how much it affects us, and that big or large agriculture isn't a bad thing, and that's how we're going to feed the world in the future. So I guess just realize how important it is, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can tell you when I started putting together this panel, one of my wishes was what this all transpired to be, to find 3 producers who are well spoken. I don't know if each one of you guys did some professional speaking or training or whatnot, and just a strong wheelhouse. And so, gentlemen, each one of you delivered big today. I obviously we didn't have a shortage of topics. I didn't think that we would, but Melvin, Jordan, and Tyler, I thank you very much for your time and your perspective on the past year and the year ahead. And finally, to everybody that's on, we invite you to attend the Milk Business Conference December 13th through 15th in Las Vegas. You can go to milkbusinessconference.com for more information. We have a great lineup. Our key speaker is a ninja warrior. I don't know if I can compete with that, but they're going to talk about motivation, labor, sustainability. There's not a shortage of topics. So, gentlemen, I appreciate your time, and I hope everybody has a safe harvest if they're still in the field, and a happy holiday ahead. Thank you.